Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to dive right into the single problem that basically is economics. The simple fact that you can't have everything you want. We'll explore why that is and how this one little idea about making choices actually shapes our entire world. Let's get into it. I mean, think about it. It's a question we all face every single day, right? What should I buy? Where should I work? How should I spend my time this weekend? We're always forced to choose, for the simple reason that we can't have or do it all. And this universal problem, it's the absolute starting point for all of economics. So, what exactly is this core problem? Well, it all boils down to one powerful, totally inescapable concept that shapes every single decision made, from you and me to huge corporations and entire countries. And that concept is scarcity. Seriously, at its heart, economics is just the study of scarcity. Our wants are pretty much endless. We always want a better phone, a nicer vacation, cleaner air, you name it. But the resources to make all that happen, the time, the money, the raw materials, are limited. This mismatch is the fundamental problem that economics is trying to figure out. This diagram here breaks it down really well. See, on one side, you've got our inputs, what economists call the factors of production. Things like land, raw materials, and people's labor. These are our scarce resources. And on the other side, our unlimited wants. Because of that huge gap in the middle, we are forced to make choices. And those choices decide everything that gets produced and consumed in an economy. Okay, and this is a huge point. Every single time we make a choice, we're also choosing not to do something else. Economists have a name for this, and it's called opportunity cost. It's not just the price you pay for something. It's the value of the next best thing you had to give up. That, right there, is the true cost of any decision. For example, let's make this super simple. Let's say you've got $15. You could buy a new video game, or you could buy 2 paperback books. If you choose the game, the opportunity cost isn't just the $15. It's the enjoyment and knowledge from reading those 2 books that you just gave up. That's the real economic cost. All right, time to put this idea to the test. A student has a flute they don't play. What's the opportunity cost of just keeping it? Let's walk through this. First off, that $80 they originally paid, that's what's called a sunk cost. It's in the past, it's gone, you can't get it back, so it's totally irrelevant to the decision you're making right now. The new price of $95 is also irrelevant because they're not buying a new one. The real choice today is between keeping the flute or selling it. The next best alternative to keeping it is selling it for its resale value, which is $50. So by choosing to keep it, they are giving up that $50. The answer is B. Okay. So we've got scarcity and opportunity cost under our belts. Now let's dig into how economists use these ideas to look at the world, starting with how they make a clear line between what's a provable fact and what's just someone's opinion. Economists separate statements into 2 big buckets. First, you have positive statements. These are objective claims about what is. You can test them with data. A statement like, the inflation rate is 2% is positive because we can go look up the data and prove it right or wrong. Then you have normative statements. These are about what should be. They're based on values and opinions. Like, the government should lower inflation. There's no fact you can look up to prove that right or wrong. It's a judgment call. Let's try this out. We're looking for the statement that is not positive. So, in other words, we're looking for the opinion. Let's look at A, B, and C. They all make claims we could, in theory, test with data, even if they turn out to be wrong. We could research tax changes and their effects on savings or work hours. But look at statement D. It uses the word fairest. Fairness is a value judgment. It's an opinion. You can't test it with data. So D is our normative statement. So we keep talking about these scarce resources, right? But what are they exactly? Well, economists like to group them into 4 main categories. These are like the fundamental building blocks of any economy. These big 4 are called the factors of production. First up, you've got land, which means all natural resources, everything from oil in the ground to the ocean itself. Second is labor, which is simply the human effort that goes into production. Third is capital, and this is a really important one. In economics, capital does not mean money. It means the man-made tools we use for production, like machines, computers, and factories. And finally, enterprise. This is that human spark of innovation, the skill of bringing the other 3 factors together to create a business and take a risk. Let's see this in action. The country has poor infrastructure, roads, railways, power grids. What are those? They're man-made tools for production, so that's a lack of physical capital. It also has a shortage of skilled engineers. That's a lack of skilled labor. You'll often hear this referred to as human capital, the knowledge and skills of the workforce. So, to reach its potential, this country needs to boost both its labor and its capital. The answer is C. Okay, now for one of the most important graphs in all of introductory economics. Seriously, how do we take these big ideas about scarcity and trade-offs for an entire country and, well, draw a picture of it? For that, we turn to a simple but really powerful tool. This right here is the production possibility curve, or PPC. What it does is show all the possible combinations of two goods. In this case, we're looking at cars and televisions that an economy can produce if it's using all of its resources as efficiently as possible. Any point right on the curve, like A or B, is efficient. A point inside the curve, like C, means the economy is being inefficient. It's not using everything it has. And a point outside the curve, like D, is impossible with current resources. It's unattainable, for now. So if an economy is operating at point X somewhere inside the curve, what does that tell us? It means resources aren't being fully used. The economy isn't firing on all cylinders. And one of the biggest reasons for that is unemployment, when you have people who could be working but aren't. So that means the answer here is B. The economy has the potential to be on the curve, but something is holding it back. Now, the big goal for any economy is to push this whole curve outwards. A shift from the inner curve, PPC1, to the outer one, PPC2, is what we call economic growth. It means the economy's total productive capacity has gone up. Maybe there was a breakthrough in technology, or they discovered more resources. Whatever the reason, it means production levels that used to be impossible are now achievable. So what would cause that whole curve to shift out? Let's check the options. B, a decrease in productivity? Nope, that would actually shift the curve inwards. D, switching between goods? That's just moving along the curve that's already there. But A and C, applying more machinery is an increase in capital. Applying new scientific methods to farming is a technological advance. Both of these things would boost the economy's total potential output and shift the curve outwards. A is a great, clear example of an increase in the capital stock that would do just that. All right, we've seen how individuals and businesses face choices. Let's zoom way out now. How do entire societies get organized to answer the really big questions? What should we produce? How do we produce it? And who gets the stuff once it's made? This brings us to the idea of economic systems. If you boil it all down, there are two main approaches. On one hand, you have a market economy. Here, resources are owned by private individuals and companies. Decisions are made by millions of producers and consumers interacting, and the whole thing is coordinated by prices. On the other hand, you have a planned economy, sometimes called a command economy. In this system, the government owns the resources, and a central authority makes all the key decisions about what gets made and who gets it. Okay, so if a country wants to move away from central planning and become more of a market economy, what kind of move would it make? Well, it would want less government control, not more. Introducing tariffs, providing free services, and setting prices are all things the government does to intervene in the economy. But privatizing a state-owned industry, that is, selling something like the electricity company to private owners, is a classic move towards a market system. So the answer is B. For our final topic, we're going to zoom back in a bit and look at the goods themselves, because it turns out that not all goods and services are created equal, and their unique characteristics have a huge impact on how they get produced and paid for. We can classify goods using two simple questions. First, is the good rivalrous? That's just a fancy way of asking, if I use it, does that prevent you from using it? A sandwich is definitely rivalrous. If I eat it, you can't. Second, is the good excludable? Can the seller stop you from using it if you don't pay? A ticket to the movies is excludable. If you don't pay, they don't let you in. Things that are both, like a sandwich, are called private goods. Things that are neither, like national defense or a lighthouse, are public goods. All right, let's test this last idea. The statement is describing a good that is non-rival. My using it doesn't reduce what's available for you. This is the absolute defining feature of a public good. Think about that lighthouse again. One more ship seeing its light doesn't make the light any dimmer for all the other ships. So the correct answer here is D, a public good. And there you have it. We started with that super simple problem. You can't have it all. And from that single idea, we've built a whole framework for understanding scarcity, cost, growth, and even the huge systems that societies use to manage it all. You now have the basic toolkit of an economist. The real question, the one that drives pretty much all economic debate, is this: which of these tools and which of these systems are the best ones for building a better world? Thanks for joining me for this explainer.